And joining us now from Jerusalem, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Prime Minister, thank you so much. We hear first that a ceasefire is turned down, then another one is called for, and now apparently that one's off too. What's the very latest?
Look, Israel has accepted, Bob, 5 ceasefires up to now. We accepted them and we implemented them. Hamas has rejected every single one of them and violated every single one of them, including 2 humanitarian ceasefires, which we accepted and implemented in the last 24 hours. Now they floated a ceasefire proposal, and you know what? This is quite astounding, Bob. They violated their own ceasefire, and they're firing at us as we speak. So Israel is not obliged and will not let a terrorist organization, a ruthless terror organization committed to our destruction, to decide when it's convenient for them to stop for a moment, rearm, and continuing firing on our citizens and our people. We'll determine what is important for our own security in the way that we can to protect our people, including working against these terror tunnels that they're digging against us. That's how we'll act. We'll just act to protect our people.
So will you increase the ground offensive inside the Gaza, or what is the next step here, Prime Minister?
I'm not going to talk about military operations. I will say we have a right to defend ourselves. You have to just imagine the United States having 80% of its population under rocket fire and 80% of your people having to go to a bomb shelter within 60 or 90 seconds. That's unsustainable. We've imagined the United States having terror tunnels dug underneath your border in order to come in and explode your kindergartens or murder and kidnap your citizens. Imagine attacks by land, by sea, and by air. Obviously, you take whatever action is necessary to protect your people, and that's essentially what Israel is doing. I can't go into more information than that. I hope we achieve a sustainable quiet that will enable us to address the issue of demilitarizing Gaza, because I think that's the real issue. How do we demilitarize Gaza? And if Hamas is weakened, discredited, and demilitarized, then we may have a chance to work something with the more moderate forces and get a better future for all of us.
Prime Minister, I know you have been concerned about these tunnels for a long time, and you've known they were up to something there. But was this underground complex more extensive than even you had thought it was?
Well, we knew about the terror tunnels, more or less the size of it. We're obviously getting more information now, precise information, but what you see is this vast underground terror kingdom, these vast tunnels in which they poured in tens of thousands of tons of concrete. You know, people were saying, bring concrete to Gaza, bring cement to Gaza to help build Gaza. And what Hamas did was take all that cement, all that concrete, and poured it into the tunnels that are meant to come in under our communities and blow up our kids and kidnap our people. I think that's why I think that the economic and social relief that people want to have for Gaza and that we want to have for the people of Gaza once this is over is tied to demilitarization. We'd have to, as this example shows, make sure that concrete that is brought in is not abused and brought to dig in new tunnels. We'd have to make sure that money that people want to go for the people of Gaza, for their social relief, and we have no objection to that, is not used for buying rockets and missiles and drones and everything else that Hamas is using against us. I think that what we need is demilitarization of Gaza and alongside economic and social relief for the people of Gaza. But the economic and social relief for the people of Gaza, I think, is tied to demilitarization.
Prime Minister, when you say demilitarization, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean Israeli troops go back in there and keep the peace? Obviously, you're talking about shutting down these tunnels, but what does that really mean?
I think that has to be discussed as part of the overriding goal, because otherwise we could find ourselves in the same situation. I think once we get the Egyptian initiative, which basically calls for an unconditional effort to try to address these problems, I think that once we get into that, we'll have to discuss the means of actually making sure that Gaza is not remilitarized. How do we prevent stuff from coming in? What do we tie in vis-a-vis social and economic relief? How do we make sure that money or materials that go in are not used for remilitarizing Gaza. There are ways of doing this. I think it's important to put that out as an overriding goal, and it'll have to be discussed in Egypt when the time comes.
Prime Minister, let me ask you this. Many people agree with and sympathize with your determination to stop these attacks on your people. That is very understandable. But they're also worried that every time the world sees these pictures of these children being hurt and killed, that you may be losing the battle for world opinion. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think this gets to the essence of Hamas's strategy. Hamas is responsible for these civilian deaths. Hamas is not only trying to kill our people, it's sacrificing its own people, quite willfully, deliberately, cynically, and horribly. They are using their people as human shields. You know, we asked the people to leave, the civilians to leave. They asked them to stay. Why are they asking them to stay? Because they want the bodies of Palestinian civilians to pile up. And every time we see a dead civilian, you know, we regret it deeply. I mean, nobody can fail to have the feelings of regret and sorrow when you see these things. But the blame should be placed where it belongs, at Hamas's door, because Hamas actually wants to have more and more Palestinian civilians killed, and that's why they're using them as human shields. I think that should be condemned. I recognize what you say about world opinion, but I can only appeal to decent people everywhere and tell them, if you're concerned about civilian lives, it's not because of Israel. Israel is not targeting a single civilian. It's Hamas that wants to have Palestinian civilians killed, and it's Hamas that should be squarely blamed.
Prime Minister, thank you so much for taking time to tell the American people the very latest on this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.